Hello, everyone, and welcome to chapel this Monday morning. Mr. King and I would like to talk to you a little bit today about some tools to help you speak up, tools to help our whole community speak up, especially when we see things that are hurtful to others. And it's the day before the election, and we thought this might be a really good time to do this. Last week, we shared some of these tools with our faculty and staff, and so we as a community want to work on this together. So we hope you find this helpful.
All right, good morning, everyone. Our vision statement of a school is something that I am really proud of, and I think that it's something that is important for us to remember. It says, Eastern Mennonite School aspires to reflect Christ's light as a learning community where every student belongs, thrives, and lives God's call. And that last phrase, where every student belongs and thrives, is something that we really want to focus on these next couple days.
Okay, so why do we need to learn these tools to speak up? Well, there's a lot going on in our communities these days, and with the pandemic, economic downturn, civil rights movement, some civil unrest about things going on in our country and in the world. And it can be very difficult to navigate through all of that. It can be very polarizing. And with the election tomorrow, it adds another layer of that. And so it's important for us to learn some tools because it's really hard to be the kind of community we want to be in this kind of a setting. It's hard to be human in this setting, and it's also hard to be middle school and high school students. And so we're hoping that by giving you these tools, it will be empowering to you so that you have some tools to use when there are difficult moments in our community.
So a really important part of what we want to do is teach you guys some practical ways for us to speak up. Some practical ways for us to acknowledge all of the things that are causing polarization among our friend groups and our families and all of the communities that we belong to, and to also, as a school, help us close the gap between where we are as a school and where we want to be with our vision statement. One of the things that Ms. Archer mentioned was a training for faculty and staff. And we did some training last Wednesday. We're going to continue doing more training again this coming Wednesday. And so the entire school community, we want to be equipped with this IQEE training. And we're going to talk more about that. But again, it's just tools for how we can navigate these polarizing times. Why do we want to do that? Who cares, right? Well, we want to be a community that speaks up when hurtful things are said. And it's important to do that because if we're going to be a faith community, we have to live that authentically. We can't just pay lip service to the fact that we're a faith community. We have to actually follow the words of Jesus, who modeled the way for us. And we have to start with ourselves. We can't start by pointing the finger. What we have to do is look within our own selves, our own lives, and our own school, and really start there and find the ways and moments in our own life where we can speak up. You know, there's a quote from Martin Luther King Jr. that really comes to mind in this particular scenario and context. And it's, in the end, we will remember not the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends. And I think it speaks to our opportunity in difficult moments and the importance of speaking up and the importance of having courage, even when it's difficult in those moments and you feel like you're going to bumble your way through something, to say something. And to speak up and to address it. Saying something and kind of bumbling your way through it, or maybe not even being sure of what you're going to say, but just saying something is better than not saying anything. And I've been in a situation before where I wasn't quite sure what to say, and so I didn't say anything, and that haunts me. And I just want everyone in our community to feel empowered to be able to speak up in moments like this that we're going to talk about. And so, okay, enough talk. Let's get into some of the practical stuff. Here we go.
So the really first step in getting this training going is preparing ourselves for it and simply telling ourselves that we want to be people that speak up. I want to be somebody that speaks up. I will not let hate have the last word, and I'm a person who will speak up against bigotry. And this is hard work, and people have been working on this for many, many years. And so part of the first step is just saying, I'm going to work at this. And there might be a few responses that you can prepare ahead of time, and that's part of what this training will be helping you with. Simple things like, that offends me, or I don't think that's funny, or I'm surprised to hear you say that. It stops things and it makes people start to think. And so being prepared for that is important. And as Mr. King just said, it's important to say something and that you don't let things go by, because everybody speaking up together can really make a difference. So preparing ourselves is important.
All right, so there are 4 tools that we want you guys to feel like you have on your tool belt, so to speak, that you can go to in different times. And this training is called IQEE. And so, this is an acronym. The I stands for interrupt. And so what this is talking about is just the power and the importance of addressing remarks that are inappropriate or insensitive or racist every time. And it's important to address them every time, because if you choose to not say something in one particular circumstance and then another time you speak up, it can send the message that, well, this is okay, or it just sends unclear, inconsistent messages that, well, sometimes it's okay to be racist, or sometimes it's okay to have bias. And that's not the case. We want to interrupt comments and things that are absolutely inappropriate. And the way that we do this is really important too. One of the things that you can look at is this as an opportunity. When there's a moment, if your friends are talking and one of them says something that's an inappropriate joke, that's an opportunity to just say, hey, please stop. And, when you're thinking about what to say, if you can say things like, I don't like the words that you just used, or, hey, that was hurtful, or even just saying, ouch, that can communicate to people that didn't go over. That wasn't appropriate. That's not something that is okay or acceptable in our school community. And, you don't need to give them a lecture. You don't need to get angry, but just a calm and a straightforward, hey, you need to stop, I think can really send an important message. And oftentimes the response that you get is, oh, I'm just joking around. Oh, I'm just kidding. That's not okay. Those aren't things that are acceptable to talk about. And so just saying it in a calm, in a straightforward, in a stop way will communicate to people that, that's not something that is okay. That's not something that's acceptable. That's a hurtful statement.
Okay, the next tool is the Q, and it really means question. And so if you hear something being said, you can simply ask the speaker who made the comment what they mean by that. So you might be asking, so why did you say that? What's behind that? And the goal here is to understand what is really the story behind the comment that someone made. It can be a way of understanding them, but it can also be a way of the speaker to be evaluating why they said it. And the tone of your voice when you ask this question is very, very important. Just like any time when you're talking with somebody, your tone of voice makes a difference. So you try not to be judgmental or aggressive, but calm and firm. Those questions are important, and people need to be called out on those comments, and they need to be asked to sort of analyze why they said what they did. And the approach doesn't immediately necessarily challenge a person's comment, but it instead just asks the person to think clearly about why they said it, or maybe they have some blind spots, or maybe they don't understand a situation. And so the goal of this questioning is to ask questions to really get at what's behind what someone said. And this can happen with students. It can happen with adults. So again, asking the questions helps you understand whoever's saying this comment a little bit better.
Okay, so we've done interrupt and we've done question. Another tool that's really important is to educate someone. And this is important because, a lot of times someone may be using a word, or they may be unaware of how offensive something is. And it's important to recognize that this is an opportunity to teach them, to say, hey, here's why that's offensive. So enough about a topic. It's important to feel like you can encourage them to learn more and say, hey, maybe this is something that you should talk to Ms. Roth about. Or, hey, maybe you could reach out to Mr. King about this. Or you could just say, hey, look, I feel like that was really offensive. I'm not an expert on the topic. I really want to educate myself on this. I'm not going to act like I'm the expert on that. But I feel like you need to do a little bit more homework to figure out, exactly what's going on there and educate yourself on these particular topics or whatever it is at the time. It's okay to recognize that you don't have to be an expert on race, or you don't have to be an expert in history or a straight A history student to call somebody out for something that was offensive or hurtful. And it's okay to just call them out and say, hey, I'm not an expert on this, but that's inappropriate, that's offensive, and I really would encourage you to look into that more. Or you should talk to somebody about that.
Okay, so this final piece in the IQEE is echo, or we've added the word empower, because really that's what happens when multiple people join together to challenge something that's being said. One voice challenging something to interrupt a bias is one thing, but when other people support that person and join that person in the interruption, it has a bigger effect. And so it's important that we support each other and make sure people feel empowered to speak what they're feeling and to speak up. An echoing voice can reiterate the anti-bias message. And this is tough work. And it can be very challenging for someone to take a risk and to say something to another student or to say something to an adult that maybe the adult was not aware they said something. And so help each other, support each other, and thank each other when this happens so that we can all have a more powerful voice. This doesn't just apply to the things you hear in the classroom, but it also applies to what happens on your phone and to what you type and what you read and what you text and what's in social media. Good rule of thumb is if you wouldn't say this out loud to someone, it's probably not a good idea to type it in a text or in social media. The same rule should apply if you hear something and read something. If you see something on social media that you find offensive, you need to interrupt it. You need to say something and speak up against it. So it's very important that we use our phones in positive and powerful ways and not as ways to divide.
So on this Monday morning, where we're in the middle of a pandemic, civil rights movement, polarizing election, and economic downturn, there are so many things that can draw us apart. There are so many things that can divide us. And it's important to be mindful of some of the tools that we have just talked about together, interrupting, questioning, educating, or empowering each other when we have moments of opportunity to be Jesus to somebody, to speak truth, to bring light to darkness. And about is that when we have new people that join our community, we need and we expect that we as a community are open to the ways and the gifts that these new folks can bring into our lives. And we need to be open to the changes and the positive ways in which we can be changed, rather than seeking to always change the people that are coming into our space to fit us. May you guys today be challenged in all seriousness to try to live a more sincere and authentic life. And hopefully you can have the courage to interrupt, to question, to educate, or to empower each other today, tomorrow, throughout the course of this week, and throughout the course of this year. Thank you very much for your time.